Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 129 of Discourse in Magic with Axel Hecklau. Now, this was a super cool episode. I've not only seen Axel lecture in Toronto, but I also do two of his created effects in my show, and I'm blown away by some of the other ones. So we had a great conversation talking about how to be creative, when to stop creating, when to, where to pull inspiration from, and a ton more about sort of not settling for the method and finding one that fits all of the requirements that you're looking for. So it was a really valuable episode for me, and I hope that it was for you too. Here it is, episode 129 of Discourse in Magic with Axel Hecklau. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Discourse in Magic. My name is Jonah.
My name is Tyler.
And we are here with a very special guest. This is one of the people who are in the few whose magic I seek into to purchase to actually do in my performances. And I've done two of his tricks I actually do in my repertoire. I've seen him lecture. He's amazing. And I'm super excited to dive into the way that he thinks about magic. So I think that it's a little bit different than the way that most people do. We're here with Axel Hecklau. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me here.
I am super excited to have you on, and we're pumped to chat with you about your view on magic and your view on certain ways to create and be inventive. Let's start at the very top. How did you get into magic? How did you get hooked on this?
Oh, it's almost 40 years ago. I just had a comic booklet, and that was combined with some gimmicks, some toys. I was 12, and there was a little series of magic tricks. So that was my first contact to magic. And I searched for a gift for my grandpa for his 70th birthday. So I decided to put together a show for his birthday. And I did that by buying myself a magic set. So it was not a present. It was paid with my own money. And out of that, I practiced 2 weeks, and made my first performance for my relatives.
Wow, I love that. It's amazing that right off the bat, you were just like, I want to perform. That's very exciting.
Yeah. What was that first experience like when you got that first taste for doing an actual show that you had spent, though it was only 2 weeks, you did, for a 12-year-old, that's a lot of time to focus on one thing. So what was that? What did you take away from that? What did you learn?
What did I learn? It was fun because people liked it, and 1 month later, it was my birthday, and my parents saw the interest, and they gave me a book of magic as a present, and one professional trick, 20th century silks, 2 silks not together, and then but the problem on the book was it was not able to get because it was not printed, because it was so new. It was just announced, so I had to call the magic shop 6 weeks every day to ask if it's there. So the guy in the magic shop hated me before he saw me the first time.
As soon as he was like, "You're the guy." So let's talk about the transition from there. So you got hooked in magic, but a lot of kids get interested in magic, and then, as I like to say, they grow up or they fall out of love with magic. What happened? When did the transition, or when did it come to you that you could actually do this as a career, that you could create and perform and lecture?
I met other people. I had two friends in school who did magic with me together. And then I met a guy in my age. He had connection to the magic club. And so there was a magic group, a young magic group, about 15 young magicians. And the magic club supported them. And one day we wanted to do a show, a public show. And they said, no, we are not good enough for that. We should wait. And so, but then after a while, we decided to organize it anyway without the club. And so they were kind of smart. So they said, okay, don't do the show. We will produce the Berlin Championships of Young Magicians. So it was an internal event. So no public audience. So we could be bad without damaging the image of magic. And at the end, they were very surprised about the quality, because everybody put an act together. I had my first manipulation act. I borrowed with my friend together some illusions, and we decorated them, and we put together a small illusion show. And they were totally surprised. And then they decided to organize the German youth Young Magicians Championships. So it was kind of generation of other young magicians in other part of Germany that came together. So it was a time about 1982, 1984, about that, where we had very talented young magicians in Germany, and a lot of them are still in magic and are today pros. So it's quite cool.
Wow. So you started by just sort of wanting to put on a show, and then there was a little bit of backlash from the Magic Club, and then you ended up doing it anyways, doing it with them. And then what happened? Did they start putting on regular shows?
No. Back then I worked from competition to competition. So it was 1 year, and the next year I had to improve my act. Right. So this act I never performed in public. At that day I had a little kids show, and if some people asked me, I did maybe 30 minutes on a kid's birthday party or so, and and my competition act.
Wow. Okay, so you were focused on the yearly attempt at the competition.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting, because that's a perspective that we don't hear a lot in growing into magic right now. We're hearing a lot more that people just grow and they perform more, and then they start to perform gigs. But sort of your whole focus, it reminds me of somebody who does like gymnastics or something like that, where they're waiting for regionals, waiting to compete again, which is a world that I've never been a part of. Tyler, have we ever heard anybody else who...
No, I don't think that we've spoken to people who are focusing on competition, but not where that was the main focus of them learning the art itself and practicing for one event a year.
I would say that two things. So on the one hand, I learned tricks that I can perform for my birthday parties, or if there's an adult birthday party, I can perform it there, and put a show together that it's put together by tricks and tricks and tricks and tricks, but not an act. And the competition act, there were rules, 12 minutes maximum, and it has to be a part of a category like manipulation or big illusions or something like this. And it had to be original, not a board trick or a trick that you learned by your mentor or something. So this is a different kind of working on an act on a show with these rules around that.
We talk a lot on this podcast about originality, and it sounds like you're somebody who's created a ton of really incredible magic, and it sounds like in your youth the idea that you have to create something new and original, an act, a 10-minute piece, it's very reflective to the amazing magic that you've created right now, because some of the tricks that you've created are full acts that are made of original, it's like you could do 15 or 20 minutes and it's original magic, and it seems like that's what it was birthed from. What's your thoughts on creativity and originality? Do you think that it's a necessity? Do you think it's only a necessity for competition? How do you view it?
If we like to bring our art form further, we need to be creative in many ways, and to create new magic effects. It's totally normal, because the whole life changes. The circumstances we live in, the way we see our world. So why shouldn't magic change or be developed further. So it's totally clear that there always is the search for something new. The problem on magic creation is that magic on one hand is limitless, and on the other hand, it's very limited to just maybe 7 effects, the basic effects. So that's it. How you perform it, how you present it, that's a totally different thing. There I can use all the art forms existing in the world. But for me, the magic effect, it's just the little topping on top of this piece of art. The wonder, the little cherry on top that makes it different to other art forms.
So there's a few different things that I want to touch on there, because you said a whole bunch of interesting things. So the first is, I agree fundamentally that there has to be creation in at least some sense, because people just doing verbatim somebody else's act is not really good. But what's your feeling on, some people are very talented at being inventive and creative methodologically, and some people are inventive and creative at coming up with presentations, that really change things. And some magicians who are, world famous or amazing, even in the eyes of other magicians, are doing tricks that they didn't really add much to technically, but presentationally they've really invented. So do you feel that you can be creative in any realm, or do you think that there's a sort of importance or necessity for the creativity in method?
I don't think it's a decision of your mind. It's a decision of your talent. You have talents, and maybe you're a genius thinker in theory. Then you write a book, and then you go out and perform, and people say, "Please read your books." So,
right.
This is very difficult, because there are very seldom magicians who are talented in so many ways that they can create new tricks and they can perform them brilliantly. And this is not something that you really easily can change or learn or work on. Ideas, they don't grow on trees. Of course, there are creativity techniques to make it easier to come up with ideas. But if you're not talented at that, you cannot work on it to get a genius on this particular point. So, if you're a talented performer, then it's totally okay to perform things from other creators, because there are creators that cannot perform. So not every musician creates music. They are the composers and they are the musicians. So it's totally natural that there's not that there's everything in one person. It's a problem in magic in general that we magicians, because of the secret, work so alone, so self-made, so self-educating, and so we have to do everything by ourselves, and that's not true. But this is the way most magicians work.
And there's also something to be said, like there are people who do write songs and know how to play the instruments, but they don't have the stage presence to make it as a performer. Like they're not necessarily just writing the notes on a piece of paper. There is a way to push a magic piece forward without being completely original. Like if I don't know, I can't think of a good musical example, but let's say someone else was writing the songs for the Beatles. Nobody would care if someone played Yellow Submarine and they weren't the Beatles. You need to have, the character side of things, but it's also, like you said, a double-edged sword, because without, performers pushing the envelope and creating their own new material, the art form itself is stagnant and doesn't move forward with the times, which is, I think, an issue that we see a lot of in the magic world, because so many pieces of magic, like what we call the classics, are completely dated and only really fit into the magic world as sort of a historic piece and not really a genuine, natural feeling sort of piece. You're watching a show instead of just experiencing magic with the items and objects around you that fit into our current time frame.
So this is one thing I really wonder about, or I'm surprised about that. For instance, I performed the linking rings for more than 30 years now. And they bored me a period of time, and they kicked it out of my show. So, and then I got a new set, and they felt so good. So I got a new relationship to the rings, and I found definitely a new approach to perform it. And even if it's a classic, in my feeling, I put it on a different level now. So even the classics can be changed or adjusted or a little bit modernized, so they are not outdated, and people still love it. So there are no limits, even on classics, I think.
Totally, and I think part of the exciting thing that we get to do in Magic is add our own inventing and modernizing, and like you said, even just picking up a tool in Magic and just being like, oh, this feels so good. And that's what inspires you to play with it. And, the thing I wanted to highlight about what you said before is two. Number one is, creativity. I love what you said. It's like, you're like, it doesn't work like that, right? Like, you come up with ideas. You can't pluck them from trees. You can't say, oh, I'm going to take it from the tree of presentation. I'm going to try. That's not how ideas work, right? So you just have to work on your act and create and write better things and come up with better things and come up with better presentations. And the other thing about that, which I thought was so amazing, is you're one of the first people I think to ever really talk about it in terms of talent and say, well, yeah, like if you're very talented, then you create original presentations with original scripts and original methods and and if you're a little bit talented, or maybe if your talent is in one area, then you create just the methods, or maybe, and one is maybe not more talented than the other, but maybe in different areas or things like that. And you're one of the first people to highlight that, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
So I want to chat about the direction of creating. So there's a few of your tricks that I do that I love that are so amazing and eye-popping. One is the news flash with the newspaper, which is fantastic. And the other is, mind my forgetting the name of it, with the cards. I want to say it's called Fate, but maybe that's not what it's called.
Destiny.
I said Fate. Damn. Okay, well, Destiny. Anyways, both of those tricks I do, and they're amazing, and they're creative in ways that other Magic isn't. And particularly, and another trick which I don't have, but I want to highlight as being particularly clever, is your work right now on the Chop Cup is stuff that I've never seen before. And I would have not imagined that a Chop Cup would fool me at this point in my Magic career so badly as it did in your lecture. So what is it that you think you're doing to look at Magic in a way that other people aren't, and to create things or search in places and in corners that other people aren't?
So I think the first thing that I have a talent for is to be not satisfied with existing things. So if I see something, I feel points or see points that can be improved. That's a basic thing. If you don't know the problem, you can not find a solution. That's one of my basic sentences of my lecture. So I need to find the problems. If I'm satisfied with everything, there's no chance to develop and go further. In case of Newsflash, for instance, it was just a move that I was not satisfied with. When the fingers goes behind the package to grip the corners, that was a hint for the spectators that there is something, and it gives away the surprise because they see, oh, there is something important, and they feel it with their stomach. They don't think about it, but they feel it. So it gives away a little bit of the effect, because in a Donnerstock newspaper, of course, people know what will happen. Right. If a magician tears up a newspaper, what for is it? So you will restore it. But if they don't expect the moment when you restore it, it's still surprising. So this little move, that was my problem. I worked on it. I developed a new folding technique. And then if I'm into a project, then one thing comes to the other. And yeah, And on the chop cup, I never had I love the cups and balls, but I never got a relationship to this piece of magic. So I tried different routines, but it didn't fit to me. So I thought I love Tommy Wonder's chop cup routine, but as well the hit and hope. I call it the hit and hope move. If you dump the cup and then you're surprised if it's not there, and you dump it again and that's there. Okay, this is of course a moment where you feel bad doing this trick technique, because you're never sure, 100% sure if it's there or not.
Right.
So and people feel this as well. If you have a certain moment in a routine and you feel bad, you watch yourself performing on a video or so. And I think almost every magician had a little tick what he's doing during the trick technique if he doesn't feel comfortable, like waving the head a little bit, or they make a move with the right hand or so to cover something they feel guilty about. So. And this was one of the moments I didn't liked, and I searched for different techniques for that, and so I came up with a trick technique for just a cup. And now I feel so secure, and all these unsure and unsafe moments are erased out of my routine.
You know, it seems like you are unsatisfied with things that other people are satisfied with. And it seems like you go through incredibly great lengths to fix what some would think of as maybe a minor inconvenience or a minor detail, or, oh, they probably won't notice it, or it's good enough, or it works for lay people. I'm a worker. Don't worry. You take those moments that are minor holes, and it feels like you become obsessed with solving the problem. I'm having an image in my head, and you can correct me if this is wrong, of dozens of newspapers strewn about your house, folded in different ways, trying to figure out the correct fold. Did that happen at a time?
Of course.
Right. So to me, it's so like, there's only a certain type of person, or rather a certain type of obsession, to have such a problem with a half a second with a trick, to be like, buying newspapers and folding them like, hundreds of ways. And I think that word like obsession comes into such play here, because it sounds like such minor things are what allows you to create something that is really new and really never been done before.
It's not the folding, it's the tearing. The tearing process of the newspapers is much more difficult to create than the folding process. So there was one certain point. I was on the train station waiting for a train to pick up a magic friend who wanted to lecture in our city. And because there is the international newspaper shop on the train station, I bought a lot of international newspapers, because that was a time when I had out Newsflash 1, and I figured out that in different countries, the newspapers are different. So I had to find solutions to these particular differences. So I bought a lot of newspapers. And on the track, not on the track, but when we waited there, me and my wife, I started to tear them, just to find out the fiber direction of the paper.
Right.
And I just spent $30 something for newspapers and started to destroy them. And she looked at me and asked me, "What are you doing?" and I just said, "I'm working."
Right. I'm on. These are work hours for me. These are billed hours. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a crazy work, but it's fun. So I feel responsible when I bring something out, and there are thoughts not thought that I could do. I'm a little bit angry on other people who bring out products. They have maybe a great idea and a great concept, and then they bring it out much too early. because they have no way how to get into the gimmick, how to get rid of the gimmick, how to handle certain problems during a performance or something. And then I buy just a simple, good idea, but not a routine that I can perform. So I have to reinvent it. And I feel a bit responsible for that pieces also. So that's why I brought out Newsflash 2.0, because I realized, okay, the newspapers are different in the world. So I did my work halfway. So let's go through it the full way.
Yeah, and I love what you're saying. You know, we do have a little bit of a responsibility, and we forget. And it's so easy, like I was joking about before, to say things like, people don't really notice that, or I'm a worker, or, you know, and we really have to strive for methods that are incredibly fooling and not stick to, and just to put a chop cup on the pedestal for a sec, not stick to a method that maybe we can update because of things that exist right now, or maybe we can update because or one could come up with something clever enough that is a different method and a potentially better solution. So to me, I think that being unsatisfied is such the key moment there. And, you know, that lack of satisfaction, and that, like, you know, I want to perform this, but I have this problem with it, grows into this obsession. And, you know, I now I have this image, not of you with newspapers strewn about your house, but you sitting at a train station just making a mess of newspapers. But I think that's the right idea, and that's the right image that I should have of you. If you were to recommend to somebody, you know, someone who says maybe they have a problem with a trick and they're hitting a wall with it, or maybe they're not even thinking about that, how would somebody go about really trying to problem solve in that direction? You know, it really seems like the solutions that you come up with are feats of engineering. Do you think, like you said before, it comes down to talent, or is there some sort of process or thinking or note taking or strategy that you come at it with?
So first I have to say, you always should be very aware when you hear yourself saying, "Oh, nobody noticed that," or "I'm a worker and it works," and that's not a problem at all. So it may be a problem and worth to think about it. I hate these sentences like "nobody said something to me." Of course, the audience don't tell you if they see something because they are polite. Right. They don't want to tell you you're bad. Of course. So you have to come up with the disadvantages of your routine by yourself. And if you find a point where you're not satisfied with this, halfway of the way is done. So you know the problem. The rest is work. And the work can be done by yourself, or if you have not the abilities to find a solution, then you need your network. You need other people. Today, it's so easy to ask hundreds of other magicians how they would fix this solution, this problem with Facebook and chats and whatever. But close friends are great to show. And you know who is good in which direction. So maybe one friend is good in doing things with paper. The next one is good doing things with a 3D printer or something. Right. Another one is good in electronics. The next one is good in writing gags and presentation and whatever, or costumes, or so it depends on the problem, and talk to other people so they can help you.
Part of what's so interesting about what you're saying is, you know, it really looks like a change of mindset as to what it means to be a magician. And it sounds like your approach to being a magician is a lot like being a manager of an unlimited department engineering, you know, so like you're like, I have to solve this problem, and you're the manager. So you're like, okay, I think I might need an electromagnet to solve this problem. Like, let me go find an engineer who knows how to do that. Or you're like, this, I need to sew specific fabrics. Let me find a seamstress. And you have to solve the problem and use whatever resources you have. And you're right. We are so lucky right now to have resources at our fingertips, never mind just being able to post and reach hundreds or thousands of magicians, but being able to, at the snap of my fingers, find somebody with whatever talent I need in my city, probably, right? To help me, whatever it is, build my electronic or magnet or sewing or t-shirt or whatever the thing is to help my trick. So that's interesting. Just sort of the change of mentality of what it means to be a magician and what lengths you should expect yourself to have to go through. It shouldn't necessarily end with you like sitting on your carpet with glue and being like, oh, bummer, I guess it won't work. Like maybe that's not where it ends. Like maybe it ends with a few phone calls and emails to people who know more than you do, right? Or something in that direction.
Yeah, right. But for me in person, I'm very interested in these craftsman things, and I was very curious about 3D printing and technological things to produce or to manufacture things. But that's not the talent of most of the people. But if you see the problem, and the problem can be also a problem in the rhythm of the routine of too many effects at the same moment or whatever. So it's so many topics, not only the prop or the trick techniques. It's most of the tricks are not good because of the effect, has nothing to do with the story or whatever. So the theoretical things. So I would recommend to work on theory in magic a lot. So read the books and make your own thoughts. I started to think about my own magic when I started to do my first lecture or my first workshop on the little convention for young magicians, because I wanted to attend this youth workshop that was organized in Germany every year once, but I was too old. And I asked if I can sneak in, and they make exception, and they say, no, you cannot, you're too old. So I offered them, okay, maybe I can do a workshop so I can tell them my experience about close-up magic and so. And they, okay, I could do that. And that was the first time I thought in theory about my theory, why I do things like I do this. And that was the birth of my first lecture. I never had the feeling I had to teach magic to other people or so, but this is how I found it. And that meant a lot to me because I started to think about my magic in a different way, not just by doing what I feel is right.
So obviously there's so many directions of theory and so many resources and avenues, but the main concept is, why am I doing this? Why am I doing what I'm doing? And what can I do or say to best express what I'm trying to do? So why and how about what you're trying to do? Is there you said that's when you started to think about why you do what you do. Why do you do what you do? Like, what do you believe it is that you do in your performance that maybe other people don't do, or that what idea do you have about magic that you think, or performing, do you think is maybe controversial, or you decided, or something of that nature?
It's not controversial. It's just this was the basic secret in magic for me is said by the professor. Diverne said, be natural, and that's a basic secret. So be natural and authentic. If you can do that, magic is believable and will not be questioned. If every move is natural, every story is believable, then it's a moment of life that people experience in which strange and unbelievable things happens. All artificial things disturb the magic effect. And if I put a ball into the left hand to reposition it into the right hand, because I can only do the fake transfer from this side to that side, people will notice that the first transition has no reason. For instance, little small detail example. So I try to be in my magic to be as natural as possible, as authentic as possible, and I try to answer for myself the question, why do I do this, and why should people care? Why should people like this? So the story or I cannot. I have a problem to perform a trick just because it's a trick and I like it and I like to show it to you. So it's not enough for me.
Right.
Of course, the reason can be it's so cool, but then it's one trick, but not 99% of my tricks that I perform. So, of course, there are things that are very nice because of the choreography or because of the motions or like cardistry or so. There's no sense in cardistry except it can be look so beautiful. Yeah, it's like a ballet with the fingers and cards. So that's the reason for cardistry for me. But it can be also very unnerving and perceived as doesn't make sense.
It's sort of an impossible task to try to make sense. Try to make something that is inherently supposed to be impossible also make sense, but it's also a necessary step. It's kind of like to do the impossible, you have to do the impossible. And I don't know, my brain's a little bit scrambled from going back and forth into how do you make something feel like it's what should be happening, even though your audience has to be aware that that's not what should be happening, if that makes sense. I don't know. Maybe Jonah has a better way of explaining what I'm trying to say.
Well, I think, maybe I'll talk about something that's tangential, but I think is very related, is one of the things that I struggled with in magic in comparison to mentalism is how to come up with a presentation that normalizes a moment of magic. Because mentalism is so easy to normalize. You say, have you ever had a song come on the radio and then it was the one that you were thinking of earlier? Have you ever had a friend call you? Yes, yes, yes. Okay, now I'm going to read your mind. I'm being silly. Obviously, it's more difficult than that. But people have moments where it feels like it was a moment of connection or mentalism. That's easy. Magic is difficult because people rarely experience miracles. So I think what Tyler's trying to say is it's very difficult to contextualize in performance magic, to make sense of doing magic, because people don't have magic in their lives.
What? Life is full of magic. So just look into the sky. You see a rainbow, and there's magic. It's so stunning. And of course, you can start to explain it physically with physics and so. But the feeling that you have if you see the rainbow, that's pure magic. Or my FISM act is based on an experience of everyday life. You are in the supermarket, you search your credit card, and this is the only card that this is not in your wallet. All cards are there. Only the card that you need is not there. It's always the same. This is magic. So on that experience that I had a lot, it's a presentation of my FISM act. So and you lose your key. You search the world for the key and you cannot find it. And if you stop searching, next day it's on the table. You have overlooked it. Yeah, these are magical moments. You just have to take a look at the magical moments that you experience in your life. There are so many stories I can tell you, and these are inspiration for a routine, or like a ship in the bottle, for instance. That's magic. Or a message in the bottle. You always wanted to have one. That's a magical piece. And these are the stories I meant earlier. I need to tell when I do a magic trick or magic routine. I don't like the term magic trick, because trickery is always a little bit negative, and magic is not negative. It's a fulfilling emotion. So in English, there's not a nice word for piece of magic or something like this. It's maybe better to say.
Wow, I love the thought that our realm from the world to draw from in terms of magic, in terms of like inspiration, could very well be those moments that feel interesting and different, like magic. So things like rainbows and falling in love and whatever, all the all the different things like this. Those are the moments that we should be highlighting, because that is the channel that our art so closely relates. That's the human experience that our art so closely relates to. So that's very interesting. That's something that I've never really taken in the way that you've just explained.
I have maybe a little nice example. What is genius? Johann Nepomuk Hofzinser. I perform now a trick from him, and he was a genius in making a little sentence to make out of a card trick something that has a relationship to your life. For instance, he said he had a friend. He had two hearts. So he loved two women at the same moment. So he had to decide for only one woman. This is the first story. And then he let pick two cards, and somebody has to make the same decision in his mind for one of them. And then he reads the mind and can tell you which card you have. So out of a simple card thing, he makes a relationship to a very fundamental decision in life, which wife I like to have, or which woman I like to have. And this connection is so small, explained just in one sentence, but makes out of a card trick a huge emotional, very realistic and authentic thing. For me, this is genius, and 150 years ago. So great. So I love this piece.
I mean, this idea is something that we've spoken about many times on the podcast, but the framework in which we're speaking about it now is really sort of a first for me, and it is sort of eye-opening. One of the issues that I think a lot of magicians struggle with is understanding why they do what they do and what value they can bring to people's lives because of it. And it's sort of, seems a little bit cheesy to be like, oh, I did something that seems impossible to you, therefore you can do anything with your life and blah, 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 blah. But the idea of...
It's always a problem. It's always a problem to have the first finger and don't be a teacher or something that tells the audience how they have to behave. It's just telling a story, not to say, okay, if you like to have a good life, you have to do like this or something. It is very, very fast, cheesy, and not good.
Yeah.
But life is the inspiration for everything.
Yeah, and I think letting that be the message that rings through, and not necessarily being direct, but being subtle about it, and letting people make the connection themselves, reminding them that nothing is actually important. We have to create our own importance and feel our own feelings in order to experience the magic that is everyday life. And that's of course, that's a sort of, I don't know it's invigorating for me. It makes me excited about magic in a new light now. So that's pretty cool.
So I wanted to ask a sort of strange question, but you've talked about a number of different people whose books or information on theory has been a helpful inspiration. And I almost don't even know the way to phrase this question, but there's a lot of different types of knowledge about theory and magic that come from different parts of the world. And depending on where you are and depending on who you study from directly or through books or whatever will dictate the type of magic that you do. People strive just for a common thing. People strive to do like Spanish card magic, and people learn from like the school of Ascanio and things like that. So we were talking earlier before we turned on the mics, and you were saying that you had maybe a different outlook on the different branches and regions of magic. So what's your thoughts? How can we better understand some different regions and approaches to magic?
I think every magician is when you learn magic, you are influenced by the magicians around you, and depends where your influences come from, your own country or from abroad. Because of internet now, borders are not there anymore. But I think the personal contact is even still today one of the most influences things. But definitely depends on who is influencing you, how you see magic, and how you perceive magic and judge magic, and so of course that's a reason why there is a Spanish way of thinking and there's a maybe German way of thinking, because there are certain people who influences this country.
Of course.
And there's American way of doing or seeing magic, and also the audience react different a little bit. In South Korea now, in Asia, they say "woo" when they see a visual change of a whatever came into confetti or something like this, a surprising visual thing, and they react so. People from Europe think, oops, that's a little bit overdone, but it's not.
Right.
It's a way they perceive and they react. That's their way. It's just because we are not around all the time, so we feel it a little bit different. And even in Germany, when you perform in the south, you get more reactions than in the north, because people in the north are more.
Reserved.
They're a little bit more reserved, and they don't tell their faces that they have fun. So
I love the idea that different regions of magic is also dependent on the different spectators or the different audiences. Just so for people who maybe have never really left the country they live in, or maybe can't really tell the difference, what would you say are some specific things that stick out for the German view or style of magic?
Yeah, I think we have influences like Alexander de Kover or Eberhard Riese. Eberhard Riese wrote the book Foundations, how to put an act together, and many theoretical things inside that. And he directed many magic acts that won prizes on magic competitions. So people like these, who publish, who lecture on, and so they influence a country. And in the case of Germany, these two guys maybe are the biggest influencer for young magicians who started in magic. And I think you can see, and if you see an act, as a magician from Germany, you can tell if this is an act that Eberhard Riese had looked on or influenced or not. So, and I think in Spain, you see some newer card magicians. They are so influenced by the Spanish card school, of course. And that's not bad. So it's okay.
It's interesting. It's interesting that you're talking about geographical influence in terms of seeing the hands of specific people in their work, instead of seeing sort of like an approach of the region. So I really like that. That's a good approach. Can you again maybe say the resources or the books that someone could check out if they wanted to learn a more German approach, or they wanted to read some books, or would none of it be in English?
I would recommend, of course, the Books of Wonder of Tommy Wonder.
Perfect.
This is, for me, he's one of the biggest genius in magic.
For sure.
And his FISM act was purely magic from the beginning till the end. He was innovative in every way, and he was never satisfied, and he works on so little details. So read the Books of Wonders. Sometimes he overdid it with the effort he put in to create an effect. There were no limits for him. If you see his watch into the alarm clock thing, that's insane. But I think on the other hand, I don't understand people who say, no, I don't perform this trick because I have to prepare it for 10 minutes every time. And I say, okay, but it's a great effect. So You make weaker effects because there's no preparation involved. Yeah, but I'm a pro and I need to perform it 3 times a week or 5 times a week.
Yeah, you're a pro.
Oh no,
Act like a pro. Do what a professional would do and take the time.
The part that keeps sticking out to me about your approach to a lot of these things really comes down to like, how far will you go to make your magic amazing, right? Like, will you stop at reading the effect from the book? Will you stop at trying to come up with a brilliant method yourself? Will you stop at reaching out to your friends who have specific talents? Will you stop at, and you keep pushing to the next and the next level and say like how far will you go in making an effect, and how much do you care, and how much will you put into it? And I think that plays a big role in the thing that you're in the things that you're talking about. I
think you should not say how far you will go. You should ask yourself, how far do I go?
Right.
So to realize my own border, my own stopping point, is the first step to say, okay, if I go a little bit over that normal stopping point, maybe I can improve my magic with that.
I love that. I think that's fantastic. We are approaching the end of the episode where we have a whole bunch of wrap-up questions to sum up the episode. So the first of them is the PSA. So the magic PSA, the public service announcement. So you have, let's say, the ear of every magician in the world listening right now. What is it that you want to tell them about magic? We've had everything from stop doing banana bandana all the way to love yourself and love your art. What would you like to tell all the magicians of the world?
Be unsatisfied with your things. You do. But be satisfied with the success you had also. So it's always two things. Not only be satisfied only, keep creating.
Totally. Pulling from opposite directions.
Wow. Yeah.
The next segment is the endless chain. So in order for the podcast to go on for eternity, we have each guest recommend another guest to have on the podcast, with the only caveat being that you have to be able to put us in contact. You can't just be like, David Copperfield. So who do you think that we absolutely must have on the podcast?
You have more than 100 mates, so maybe you have them or had them all. But of course, Johnny Thompson should be on that podcast.
So we have had Johnny Thompson.
Yeah, I guess that. And Teller as well, I think.
So Teller we have not had. We only made an April Fool's joke about having. So we didn't actually have. But if you can put us in contact with him, we would love to.
Maybe, have you ever talked to Tim Trono?
Never.
No, Tim Trono, you know him?
Don't.
Nope.
Yeah, he was in charge for Murphy's Magic Supply and now for Penguin Magic. He brought me to do my penguin lecture, and he's a very creative guy. He knows a lot about magic. He don't perform that much, but he's a very, very important person in this market.
Awesome. That's great. We're always looking for new sort of angles to look at magic from. So that's great.
And he published something, so you can look it up.
Cool. We'll check him out. The next part is sort of the take-home points. So we're all going to go around one at a time and mention something that we think is particularly valuable to highlight, or something that was important or memorable to us that we think the audience should hear one more time, something they can grab onto and take home with them. So for me, I absolutely loved hearing you talk about magic in everyday life. And I'm not really sure what it was about the way that you phrased it. Maybe it was just the mindset I'm in at this given moment, but it really made me look at that whole concept in a new light, because I've heard every magician say, magic's all around us and I always disregard it. But maybe it was the specific examples you gave and how they weren't actual very extravagant coincidences, or just, the fact that we can feel a feeling of wonder is magic in itself, and that's all around us. And I think that's pretty beautiful. Jonah, what about you?
To me, the part that really stuck out, the one that I think is worth remembering, is just that thought of like, how far do you go? Like, what are you willing to do to make it possible or better or perfect? How obsessed can you get in the what feels to others like minor discrepancies? How obsessed can you get? Because we have it in our willpower to make those things better, to make our effect better, to create better magic. But the question just comes down to how far you will go and what's stopping you from going that far. So that to me really, really stuck out. Axel, what to you was something that you think after an hour of talking is one thing that you said or an idea that came up that people should really take home with them?
I think it's a good idea to take a re-look on a routine that you perform for years and you like, and you try to improve this routine. Not only the routine that you are new in or something. So just a routine that you think it's finished, it's ready, it's good, it's good enough.
Right.
I hate that. Good enough.
And you have a sort of direction now is to sort of hunt for the things that are a little bit wrong. Now you know what you're looking for.
So I did for myself and for my lectures, I do a checklist of asking myself questions. So I can offer you this checklist.
Love that
as well. It's a PDF, and listeners can drop me an email. And I'm happy to share that checklist. And you can check your own routines and find maybe weak points or starting points to think. And then you have the problem. And the rest is work.
Beautiful. So the last question is, where can people go to find you, your magic, and to buy your magic online? And where can they go to find this checklist?
My email is mail@axelhecklau.com. And that's also my website for magicians, axelhecklau.com. AXELHECKLAU.com. And my magic is only available on my website. I don't go through Murphy's or other dealers. So if you see any product of mine, like Newsflash or something, from another dealer, you can be sure it's a rip-off. And that's one thing people don't know, of course, because it's not a common way to distribute or sharing magic. And with my mail address, you can reach me by email. It's the best way. I don't use Facebook so much, and I just started my Instagram account 2 weeks ago, so I'm a little bit lazy about social media.
Well, with this episode, you'll have some amazing Instagram stuff to share because we make some cool posts. So you'll have some cool stuff to share, and we're excited to welcome you to Instagram. And with that, I want to personally, and I don't always do this, but send my encouragement for people to just go to your site and look at some of the magic there, because it's really inventive and creative. And I know we were making fun of workers earlier, but that material is like workable. Other people aren't doing it. It's amazing. So I have only amazing things to say about them. I've performed and played with 2 of them, and there's even more magic that you've created that really excites me. So you've got the Jonah Babbins seal of approval, whatever that's worth. Probably not much. Probably a few nickels or something, but you have it. And with that, a big, huge thank you for coming and joining us on the episode and giving us incredible advice on making amazing magic.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here.
It was a pleasure to have you.
And of course, with that, it was super awesome. And with that, a big thank you to everybody who joined in and listened to this episode. And more importantly, a thank you to the people who listened to this episode and then said to themselves, maybe I am dissatisfied with something in a trick that I do, or maybe there is something here that I don't like that I wish could be better. And I have a new thing to keep me up at night to try to solve a new problem. So I think that's fantastic. And we will see everybody next Thursday.
Take care.
Take care. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, John.
Well, there you go, episode 129. If you liked that, and if you liked what we talked about Axel, two things. Number one, go and check out the products on his website, because he has amazing magic that you should take a peek at. And number two, go and follow him on a social media of sorts, and spread the word. Share this episode. Tell the world that you like it. And I think good fortune will come your way, or something like that. I don't know, but see you Thursday.